Dear listeners, dear students, welcome to MTS, the Carleton University Norman Paterson School of International Affairs and Center on Modern Turkish Studies. At MTS, we are starting a new series of videos looking into Turkish-Canadian relations from various aspects. I'm sure you would agree that one of the best people to evaluate the overall state of our relations is the Canadian ambassador to Türkiye. You will now watch my interview with His Excellency Kevin Hamilton, based in Ankara. Ambassador Hamilton served in Turkey for 3 years, from 2023 to 26. What's more, he is a Carleton University alumni. I began by asking Ambassador Hamilton about his experience in Turkey, the state of Turkey-Canada bilateral relations, and also the way forward, as he is now completing his term in Turkey and moving to NATO headquarters in Brussels. Well, Ambassador Hamilton, thank you for responding positively for this interview. It's been a great pleasure and an honor to have you. Time flies. I remember like it was yesterday that you had arrived and we had a nice meeting in DEIK, the Canada-Turkey Business Council, and you made a great introduction. I can only hope in the past 2 years or so that you've been treated in Turkey as well as I've been treated in Canada. So we'll talk about that a little.
Sure.
And we are going to publish this with Carleton University. And with your permission, I was thinking of 3 groups of questions, maybe. A reflection on your posting in Turkey. Then maybe we can talk a bit about Canada-Turkey bilateral relations and how you see that, and maybe your future transitioning to your new posting and everything, if that's okay.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Very good. So if I may begin, during your 2 years in Turkey, what aspects of the country surprised you the most or challenged your expectations, be it its culture, people, or politics?
That is a great question. First of all, I should say this is an assignment that I always wanted. 25 years in the Canadian Foreign Service, applied several times for different positions here in Ankara, and didn't get any of them until they appointed me an ambassador. So I was upset I didn't get these postings as I moved along and was a more junior diplomat, but all is forgiven when they made me ambassador. So that was a real honor. And it has been everything I expected and hoped for as a posting. This is a fascinating country. You can't help but feel that you're in the middle of everything when you're a diplomat posted to Turkey, and so it's been very good. And as you said, and as you asked or implied at the outset, how have I been treated in my time in Turkey? I mean, wonderfully. I mean, this is a fabulous country that is renowned for its hospitality and the professionalism of the Turkish Foreign Service, the Turkish Foreign Ministry, and other parts of government that I've worked with on a daily basis here has been a real pleasure. So, in terms of what has surprised me or sort of challenged me, yeah, I kind of had a sense of it before I came here, but it really came to fruition by working for the last 2.5 years here. Is that Turks have this interesting combination of intensity and passion on the one hand, and then pragmatism on the other. So the Turks are very proud, as they should be, of their nation and their history and the path that they are carving for themselves in this world, and so they approach their interests. They certainly know their interests. There's no ambiguity there, and the Turkish body politic, especially, pursues those interests in a very intense way, but in a way that is realistic and pragmatic. They know the steps about how to get there. And for a Canadian working with Turkey, that has been very welcome. because there's this passion, there's something to get up for in the morning, and yet you're always going to work with a professional in trying to achieve common goals.
Thank you. Well, Turkey, like Canada, is geographically and culturally diverse, as I'm sure you would agree. Were you able to experience this diversity during your stay in Turkey? Which regions or cities left the strongest impression on you during your stay over here?
Well, it's an easy answer in terms of cities, and it's Istanbul. Obviously, I mean, this is a world-class city, and you kind of, when you're in the middle of Istanbul, you feel like you're on, one of these hinges on which the world turns, because of its size, because of its geographic location, strategic location there on the Bosphorus, literally linking Europe and Asia. It's hard not to feel like you're in the middle of history, and you're in the middle of geopolitics. So it was always wonderful to be in Istanbul. Then that brings me to Ankara, which I think is unfairly treated by foreigners and Turks alike. Sometimes you hear, "Oh, Ankara, it's a government town, it's boring, it's small," but this is only in comparison to Istanbul. It's Ankara is still, it's a city of 5 million people, compared to a city of 18 to 20 million people in Istanbul. So I mean, that's still the size of Montreal. I don't think any Canadian would consider Montreal a small city. So it's only in relative terms that people speak about Ankara, and I found it to be an entirely pleasant place to live. Yeah, I mean, Izmir on the Aegean coast, I only visited a couple of times, but I loved it there. It's got a whole culture of its own, very relaxed, literally Western looking, like looking out onto the Aegean there, and it certainly has that vibe about it. Elsewhere in the country, Rize, which is on the Black Sea coast, very far east towards the border with Georgia. A tea growing part of the country, where you have these magnificent green hills, that are tree plantations, and you'd think you were in Sri Lanka or Southeast Asia or something. Just the topography and the
or
way
even like the Swiss countryside.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, very mountainous, but also very quiet and relaxing, and there's a cultural diversity there as well, where you have people from the Laz community who are sort of have been living in that region for centuries, and have a community in Georgia as well. So that was always interesting. Kars in the northeast as well, with its sort of Russian imperial influences, you still see there in the architecture and so forth, and a wonderful winter destination. And then finally, I shouldn't forget Çanakkale, which most Canadians would know as Gallipoli, on the Dardanelles, where I've been many times, because of course the history of the First World War, and the fact that the Royal Newfoundland Regiment landed there and fought there, and of course this is an interesting place, and a very emotional place to visit, because of all the death and destruction, both on the Turkish side and on the side of the Allies. But also, it's just geographically, topographically very beautiful. It's this peninsula that juts out, of course, and links the Sea of Marmara to the Aegean, and so it's a place for reflection that I had the privilege as ambassador to go to several times for war commemorations. So those would be, I mean, there's many other places in Turkey that I managed to get to, and some I did not get to. But you're right, it's a very diverse country, and I've developed a real passion for it.
Yes, thank you for that. I remember we managed to erect a statue of the moose during my my tenure in Canada, and that was the only place where the Newfoundland and Labrador Regiment had fought during the First World War and didn't have a monument. So I take pride in enabling that. So I totally agree with you. Çanakkale has a special place for all of us. And of course, there's another a similar monument in St. John's
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's this mirrored image monuments in both places.
So we have managed actually to turn this bitter quarrel into something positive in history, and I think it's a strong bond between Turkey and Canada, and also Turkey and Australia and New Zealand. So uh, I think that's very valuable for us.
And it has become, Çanakkale has become for Newfoundlanders a place of pilgrimage, as
Oh,
it has been for
nice.
many years for Australians and New Zealanders. Um, After the creation of the Caribou Monument that you referenced, we now have on
Yes.
an annual basis a delegation from the Newfoundland government and high school students and so forth coming to Çanakkale every year to see this heritage.
Oh, nice. And any place which drew your attention, managed to go, and what drew your attention in Turkey to that place?
That I did not manage to go.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, many places, but I think Hatay province,
Hmm.
which is in the very far south on the border with Syria, and of course was devastated during the earthquakes in 2023. For whatever reason, I just didn't get down there. Many of my colleagues have been there and said it's a very special, unique part of Turkey. So there is one regret. Um, Şanlıurfa, or more colloquially
Hmm.
just Urfa,
Mm-hmm.
which is also in the southeast and very close to Göbekli Tepe, which is this ancient Neolithic or maybe even pre-Neolithic site that is full of mystery and so forth. I was supposed to go down there a few weeks ago, but it's wintertime and my flight from Ankara got grounded, so I didn't make it. But as my wife said, look, like Göbekli Tepe has been there for 12,000 years. It's not going anywhere. I'll find a chance to visit in the
You can
future.
always come back.
For sure, for sure.
Very good. From your interactions across different parts of Turkey, what did you learn about the country that you believe Canadians would benefit from and understanding better?
Um, well, not just Canadians, but people throughout the world, and particularly even people who study Turkey, always come to this question: is okay, what is Turkey? Is it European? Is it Middle Eastern? Is it Eurasian? And how do we? What is the lens through which we're supposed to look at and understand Turkey? And in my time here, I came here with that same question. And in the time that I've spent here, I've come to the conclusion that it's sui generis. It is just Turkey. You cannot look at it through a European or Middle Eastern lens, or if you do so, it won't get you very far. I mean, so of course, the countries and the regions around Turkey influence Turkey and Turkish foreign policy objectives and how Turks see themselves. Um, but they don't define what Turkey is.
Hmm.
Turkey is defined on its own terms, and I think one of the big takeaways in what I've been advising Ottawa over the last couple of years has been we really need to approach Turkey on its own terms. You can only understand this country if you understand its interests and how it sees itself. And it sees itself not as European or Eurasian or Middle Eastern. It sees itself as Turkey.
Indeed, indeed. Diplomatic postings often require balancing demanding work with personal exploration. Did any particular cultural experiences, traditions, or encounters during your time in Turkey stay with you? What springs to mind?
Well, I drank a lot of tea. I drank a lot of tea in Turkey. I don't think I ever sat down at a meeting that was either official or informal or otherwise that someone didn't offer me immediately a glass of tea. And
Yeah.
but that's emblematic of what Turkey is in the hospitality, and there's a ceremony to it that Turks really value, and we Canadians is sometimes a little more informal, and that has its own benefits and attributes as well. But Turks will always have this sort of very ceremonial offering of tea at the beginning of a meeting, and it's a gesture of hospitality and also goodwill. So I think I'll always take that with me.
Indeed, it's a very democratic drink, isn't it? If you're a king or pauper,
You just drink tea from the slender waist special little Turkish tea glass.
Yeah.
It's ubiquitous. You can find it everywhere, really. You're right. Uh, a little, maybe we can touch upon Turkey-Canada relations
Sure.
and looking ahead. Where do you see the greatest potential for deepening cooperation between our two countries, whether in diplomacy, trade, technology, or people-to-people connection?
I mean, all of the above. But I think, if I had to choose, I would say diplomacy and trade. Um, I think Canada, because of global events and events south of our border recently, have really forced us to approach the world with more of a realpolitik view. And as I said before, sort of engaging countries like Turkey on their own terms, and deepening the relationship. So I think like over the last year or so, we have really seen an uptick in interest from the Canadian side in having a more sophisticated diplomatic relationship with Turkey. It's always been good. It's always been a solid relationship, but it has at time lacked some depth. And I think the Turkish side has always been willing and interested to engage more deeply with another G20 country like Canada. But sometimes the Canadian side, for whatever reason, including bandwidth, we have a small foreign ministry that is in charge of the foreign policy of a pretty big and globally
Nice people, I must say, very professional.
Yes. Nice people, but not many of them. It's for such a big country and a country that's globally engaged, we still have a pretty small foreign ministry, and so sometimes Turks would knock on our doors, and we just couldn't respond in the way that we want to. But I think there's a concerted effort now and a recognition that we have to engage Turkey more deeply and with a vision to doing great things together in the world as two fairly influential middle powers. On the trade side as well, I think trade follows the flag, as they say, and so as the diplomacy deepens, I think the trade relationship will deepen as well. We, Canada, as you know, are compelled to diversify our trading relationships. Turkey has always diversified its trading relationships and has been doing what we're doing now for decades. And so, in the first instance, under the Carney government, we were focused on deepening trade with Europe and then with Asia. It only makes sense that the next tranche of that deepening of trade relationships would be that very country that links Europe and Asia. And so I think Turkey is next in line for a deeper trade relationship.
Indeed. Canada and Turkey each have development footprints in various regions. Do you see opportunities for the two countries to collaborate in third countries, such as in Africa, Central Asia, the Balkans, the Caucasus, on humanitarian development or stabilization initiatives?
Yeah, I think so. And in fact, we just had one of our directors general from GAC, responsible for Africa through Ankara and Istanbul last week or 10 days ago to discuss this very issue. And I think there's a lot of complementarity.
Indeed, I met him here in Dake.
Drew, yes, of course. He came by and met with Dake and your colleagues there. Look, there's complementarity. Turkey has networks and linkages in the Middle East and in Africa that Canada lacks. And then conversely, I think Canada has links into Latin America and the Caribbean and parts of the Pacific, where Turkey is perhaps not as strong or not as present. So I think we can work together there. We've been talking to TİKA, which is the Turkish aid agency, about collaborating more closely in third countries. So I think each country has networks that the other can benefit from.
Indeed. In your experience, what are the main strengths each country brings to the table in a potential joint effort abroad? For example, Canadian financial technological strength and mining experience, and Turkey's EPC companies, logistical reach, the defense industry, or regional networks? How would you assess the situation there?
So Turkey has many attributes, including networks and people power, brain power, a skilled workforce, good infrastructure links throughout, as I said, Middle East, Africa, and Europe and beyond. What Turkey perhaps lacks now in the current environment is capital, liquidity for big projects, either inside Turkey or in third countries, and that's something that Canada can bring to bear. And also the expertise that we have in sectors where Turkey has an interest in growing. So in energy, in infrastructure, in agri-tech, mining, as you mentioned. So we are not going to trade. Our two countries are not going to trade in energy or in resources as such, but we're going to trade in the enabling infrastructure around energy. So, as Turkey explores oil and gas in the Black Sea, Canadian equipment and Canadian drilling expertise can come to bear. As Turkey goes more towards a green economy, they're going to want more nuclear energy. In fact, there's a plan to build two more nuclear power plants. So Canadian expertise and our track record on nuclear energy may come to bear there. So I think there's a lot in energy, agri-tech, mining that we can do together. And Canada, I think, can bring a lot of the expertise and a lot of the capital to those projects.
I would add, maybe with your permission, shipping to that. We built a few ships for Canada, and I think it's quite good quality for low cost and swiftly delivered. So
even though it's an excellent point, and even though Turkey is not an Arctic nation, you have a track record of building icebreakers. Including for the Norwegians and others. So, as we have an icebreaker initiative that we're pursuing with the United States and with Finland, of course, we will favor our own shipyards in the first instance, but our ambition is so high, particularly as we put more into defense and into the Royal Canadian Navy and into the Coast Guard. There could be a capacity issue at our ports, and we may need to look at overflow to Turkish shipyards.
Yes, hopefully. I think that's a great area. Master, transitioning to NATO and a career insight, maybe we can say a few words about that. And now, as you're transitioning to your new role at NATO, which I heard, although I don't know the details, and I wish you all the best in this transition. How is your experience in Turkey? One of the strategic members, we're in the south wing of the alliance. How has it shaped your understanding of the alliance's current priorities and challenges?
Well, the alliance is changing. You can see that happening where the locus of power is moving around. But you certainly have, just geographically speaking, and in terms of military power, you have a couple of key nodes in the alliance that are going to continue to make the alliance strong for the future. And Turkey is obviously one of those. Second largest military in NATO after the United States, largest land force in Europe. Turkey has the watch over the southeast, including alongside Romania and Bulgaria, the Black Sea, including looking at threat vectors that may come from the Middle East. So Turkey has always been indispensable in that regard, and will continue to be. I see Canada as sort of analogous in another sense. That old NATO, not NATO, but NORAD adage, which is, we have the watch. This is the NORAD adage. We have the watch, and we have the watch over the north. And the north and the high north and the Arctic are becoming more and more important inside NATO, particularly as we have two Arctic powers, Sweden and Finland, joining the rest of us in securing that northern flank. So And then we've got another group of countries in the East, the big NATO powers of the East, like Poland and Romania. So you're seeing power within NATO and influence within NATO becoming more evenly distributed. And I really see you've got this North American, including the Canadian pole. You've got the Eastern bulwark, and then the Arctic bulwark, the High North. And then, of course, Turkey is the other indispensable one in that Southeast, anchoring that part of the alliance.
Thank you. I know you're an alumni of Carleton University. So
Yeah.
maybe what do you think we can say? And that is quite rare to have an alumni from Ottawa, but very positive, especially in this context. And what can we say for NPSIA or Carleton students or anyone who follows our recording here about diplomacy or multilateral work? What skills or approaches do you believe will be essential for navigating an increasingly complex multipolar global dynamic?
Well, first of all, yes, I did my master's at NPSIA and burned out most of my synapses at that time. I mean, that was probably it was, I've had a lot of challenging jobs with the Canadian Foreign Service, but before I ever joined, one of the most mentally taxing jobs I ever did was complete that master's. And so to those who are in that program now, I feel you. I know it's a tough slog, but it definitely puts you in good stead for a career in diplomacy or international affairs more broadly. I guess my advice would be, remain curious, continue learning after you leave academia. It's essential. You're only really taken seriously in the world of diplomacy if you have a curiosity and a willingness to learn and take on new perspectives. And that's particularly important now because the international system is changing. So you need to be agile and able to adapt. When I was at NPSIA, I mean, late 90s, early 2000s, it was the triumph of liberal democracy. And there was a kind of confidence and maybe complacency there in the international system that is gone now. I would never have imagined the kind of challenges we're facing now in the global order when things are becoming much more diffuse. And so that means that put hiring managers at GAC or the United Nations or NATO or anywhere else, or in the civil society community or anywhere else where you might find employment, are going to be looking for adaptability and agility. So that would be my main set of advice.
Thank you, Ambassador. That's been very interesting. We covered a lot of ground, I think. These days with the shorts and the AI and everything, people tend not to watch long discussions. And I think we've set a good record and said a lot in this short time. Maybe we can further expand on that in the future if we find some other chance. But it's not good to be, there's a Turkish saying, hiçbir şeyin eskisi olma. Don't be the old of anything. But we are, soon you will be, I already am a retired old diplomat, an ambassador, but Canada is close to my heart, and I think we carry, important knowledge and memories and insight into the countries we serve. So I think we should continue pushing for better relations, for good relations, and Canada is an important country for Türkiye. On my behalf, I'll do my best. I'll continue pushing for good relations, and you are most welcome. You have friends here in Türkiye. You made many good friends. Everyone speaks very highly of you, so you're always most welcome to come back after you leave, and let's continue to push in the right direction.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ambassador. And, I will always take a little bit of Turkey with me wherever I go in my career and in life from here on in. It has been an absolute pleasure and a highlight for me to have served here in Ankara. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thanks.